Welcome to the Pick Branding Podcast. What's up, everybody? I'm your host, William Collier, and the Pick Marketing Podcast is aimed at the aspiring entrepreneur. Are you an influencer or a life coach or someone with an enterprise level idea, but you've just had a hard time getting that idea off the ground? If that's you, this podcast is directly crafted for you, your problems, the issues that you'd like to address, and the solutions that you'd like to pursue. So thank you for joining us. This is episode 1, How to Build a Social Media Following. If you're out there and you're looking to start a business, you've probably noticed that there's no way to avoid some sort of involvement with social media. For better or worse, this tool allows you to give information for free to a targeted audience and to nurture a trusting relationship with interested buyers and clients. Social media is what we call content marketing, and this tool you're listening to right now, podcasting, is exactly the same method of marketing, content marketing, just in a longer form. So if you're looking for a way to nurture a following and to begin to address the problems that a demographic actually has and to build more trust into these relationships, then the podcast world is a great way for you to get started. But we're talking right now specifically today about how to build that following in the first place. So I'm going to interview myself. This is just going to be a monologue of sorts to tell you about my success story, about the tricks that worked for me, and about the ways we can demystify branding and marketing to bring it home and to make it highly accessible and usable to everyday people like you who just want to finally start pursuing their own dreams instead of the dreams of others. Step 1, get over the fear. Here's the thing. If you're like me and you've been looking at social media and you've been seeing the way that landscape is changing, you're seeing how politically charged that landscape can be. You're seeing how news articles and misinformation are being shared that are twisting narratives and actually causing very real harm in people's lives. Social media is not something to be taken lightly. When you get onto this platform, it's like handing you a megaphone. Whatever it is that you're interested in, you're able to say more loudly than you would have been if you were just standing on a street corner with a cardboard sign with your message written in Sharpie. When we're talking about promoting a message on social media, we're actually giving you an unlimited access to other people and their consciousness, their streams of thinking. When you jump into this content marketing format, it's important that you're trustworthy. Social media is a place where it's more important than ever that you bring an authentic message, that you are not trying to deceive anyone, and that the energy that you bring to the conversation is positive, fruitful, and offers real value. There's so much fluff out there, right? We've all heard it. We've all been filled with propaganda and heard information that is just off the wall. Not to mention fear-mongering that only causes us more negative than positive. So it's important that we approach this content marketing format with the right energy in the first place. The people who you're speaking to, make sure that your intentions are pure. You're walking into this ready to provide someone with an answer to a problem, something real that they've been experiencing in their lives, and something practical that you can offer to help them solve this problem. I've heard it said before that there's a sad state and a happy state. The sad state is where your target audience, your avatar, whatever you want to call them, that's where they live right now. Where they want to get is the happy state. But there's a gap between those two states. And there's almost like a black box of sorts that you are offering that gets them from that sad state to that happy state. It's not nearly as important what you actually offer or the practical steps that you can use to fulfill this yearning that your following has. What's most important is that you have proven examples that you can solve that problem. So use your social media funnel in such a way that you nurture trusting relationships with end users, real people who are experiencing real problems, and then you offer them a solution that gets them to that happy place at the end of your program. Like I said, it's not nearly as important what your program actually does as it is that that end user feels that they are going to receive a benefit at the end of your funnel, that they are going to get something from you that's going to fulfill them. And that's something else that we need to talk about for a moment. We live in a time where we are more comfortable than ever, right? So it might feel at times like we've really got it made. But what's ironic about the state of the human race as it sits right now is that we actually are disconnected from any sort of real sense of risk and danger. It takes an extra step for us to get out there and to actually feel like we are vulnerable, like we are risking things, and we are actually trying to see value return to us for these risks that we take. We're very domesticated. We live in an age where it's just easy for us to get heat in our house when it's cold in our house when it's hot, a fridge full of food, and, cars. Everybody in the United States nearly owns a car, right? It's one of the most normal things in North American culture. We have all these comforts and all these things that allow us to complete an amazing amount of tasks, and we've gone snowblind to it, where we don't even appreciate it as much as we should anymore. So this sense of fulfillment is something we have to go an extra step to receive. It's something we have to step beyond a comfortable bounds to get there, because we live in an age where most people out there in the world are working normal jobs. They're behind a desk. They're clicking keys for some giant corporate interest, or they're blue-collar workers who are just going and installing a new heater or AC unit. Nothing wrong with that at all, right? All the respect in the world for the tradesmen of this country. But if you're yearning for something deeper and more that actually expresses some kind of unique sense of self, this is a time where you're able to do that through these tools that we have with social media and podcasting to get your voice out there and to offer a unique solution to people who have unique problems. So how do we actually go about building this following? Well, there are some key points that we need to cover, the main one being consistency. When you come to your social media platform or to your podcast, make sure that you're bringing a real work ethic of regularly showing up and doing this at intervals that are regular and sustainable for you. In my case, my TikTok following has been growing because I've been posting 2 to 3 times a day for a solid 3 weeks now. I've gained 500 followers from just looking at a specific person that I'm trying to help, right? In my case, it's people who are trying to get their own business ventures off the ground, but who have failed, who are trying to exit the corporate culture, who are trying to build their own dreams instead of the dreams of others. And yet they don't have the business or marketing acumen to get that thing going. What I do is I offer branding and marketing services that will help people bridge the gap between where they want to be and where they are now. There's also a personal coaching element that's involved through my branding agency called Pick Branding that I've started here in Bend, Oregon. The program is called Pick Me. It's a brand camp for people who are looking to get the personal coaching they need to learn how to start a business and get in the correct mindset in the first place, to dismantle limiting beliefs that are keeping them from believing that they can actually achieve this kind of a dream, and to give them real deliverables like a brand book, personal branding or enterprise level branding, to give them web design that gets them started off with a color palette and with a brand image that makes sense, that's attractive to their end users, and to get them believing in themselves in the first place to where they can execute this kind of a dream. So, In my case, that's the person I'm aiming at the other end of my social media. That's the way I craft my messages. I try to approach this problem I'm seeing from as many angles as I can. And I've seen an enormous turnout just in the last 3 weeks in terms of growing a following. Now, granted, 520 followers, I think, at the time this podcast is being recorded. That's not a lot in the grand scheme of followers, but I want you to keep one thing in mind. One, 500 followers in 3 weeks is nothing to sneeze at, right? So you could just follow the exact same modus operandi that I've been following, and you could end up with a following similar to what I have, and you could begin to grow and continue to nurture that over time just by staying consistent in how often you post and what you post. But second, it's important to also notice the number of followers that you have is not nearly as important as the quality of the followers that you have. It's better to have 1,000, 500, 5,000 followers who are very interested in what you have to say than it is to have 20, 30, 100,000 followers who really don't care. They're just following you because you're the new hot thing, right? So the following that we're building, if we start with the right messaging and make sure that we're speaking a consistent message, we will have the right following who's far more receptive and far more likely to act on the things that we offer. Next up, I'd like to ask, are you being authentic with your message? This is something that I try to teach everybody when it comes to branding and marketing and just simple things like building a social media following. This thing is not going to be sustainable if you are not authentic. If you don't really believe in your heart that what you are offering is of real value. It takes time to workshop these ideas to the point where you know that it's authentic to you and that it's going to connect with an end user. This is so important. The messaging that you're going to bring to your social media is an enormous part of your personal brand and of your presentation. Now that leads me to the main third point when we talk about building a social media following. We're going to talk about your personal brand. When we talk about personal branding, it's different from corporate enterprise level branding in that your face, your voice, the actual intonation and spirit that you bring to your message is your brand. A personal brand is something that's usually based around simple things like your preferences, right? The people that you're aiming to help and how we can put a marketing funnel in place to your landing pages, to your website in such a way that it still looks authentic to the kind of person that you are and to the kind of person that you are serving. Now, here's the thing. We can't just get out there and give free information forever, right? We have to actually give some kind of a value proposition to see money return to us for the value that we bring to the end user. It's not a sustainable relationship for us to continue to just give away free content and for that to be the end of the discussion. You have to have a way for people to go deeper with you, whether that is with a service that you offer, such as life coaching or like what I'm doing, this brand camp, or a product, right? Whether there's some kind of product in mind that actually it can be held in the hands and can increase the quality of life for the end user just by owning this special tool or this thing that's going to help them to achieve their own dreams. In the end, what we're doing through branding and marketing isn't trying to make a hero out of ourselves. We're actually trying to make a hero out of the end user. Your audience all has something they're trying to achieve in life. They don't see themselves as a non-playable character, an NPC in a video game like so many people that we rub elbows with in the everyday matters of our lives actually feel like to us. Every single person that you rub elbows with feels like the main character of their story. They might have troubles. They might have struggles that are holding them back that make them feel like they can't get to the next level. And your job as an influencer, a life coach, an enterprise level client, whatever you are, your job is to make sure that that end user feels, at least for a moment, if not for a lifetime, like they're leveling up and becoming the hero of their own story. So when we talk about building a social media following, the reason that this element is so important is because you have to remember this is not just about you. You're going to receive livelihood and value for bringing these solutions to your end users. But you have to remember, you're solving a problem for people, right? Why would you want to solve a problem for them? Is it just for you? Or is it actually for them? This is what I like to call a matrix of benefit between you, the content creator and the provider of your product or service, and the end user. Both of you are equally benefited in this relationship. When you take money for providing your product or your service, you are not the winning party in that transaction. You are actually receiving an equal measure of trust and value for the product or service that you offer from another human being. Another human being with a whole story that they're living, with their own pain, with their own difficulties, with their own goals, with their own depression or their own addiction or their own victory or their own whatever it is. It's a beautiful intermingling of stories, and we have the opportunity to create this through branding and marketing and just good, authentic business offered to the end user. And this is the last thing I'm going to share on this episode, and then we'll wrap things up. So one of my hidden motivations for doing what I'm doing with Pick Branding in Bend, Oregon, is I'm actually trying to get power, wealth, and influence put back into the hands of the everyday people of this planet. I'm actually trying to be ethical in the idea of helping people to remember their own power. And when I say ethical, I mean I'm not giving you some sort of fluff and selling you a bill of goods. What I'm trying to remind you of, beloved human beings out there, is that you are limitless beings of power. You have so much ability available to you. Social media is this incredible vehicle that helps you to create an influx of attention and value from people who actually are tired now of the big box solutions that are offered to them by the corporations of the world. You have an opportunity at this stage in human consciousness and evolution to offer the kinds of solutions, products, services for people that are just leagues above what they're used to. You can give them better. We're having a softball lobbed over the plate for us by a lot of these big box institutions because they are offering cheap products that do not fulfill just to keep lining their own bank accounts. When you innovative and brilliant human being out there, you have tools at your disposal. You have ideas that you've come up with that are levels above what people are typically going out there and buying. And I've found also in my own marketing research and branding research that the market is trending more toward the personal brand and toward quality products from real human beings. I think what none of these giant corporations accounted for was the kind of interpersonal trust and the power that's handed to us through these tools. That's why I advocate, and this is a sidebar I won't get into too deeply, but this is why I advocate so strongly for free speech and for the powers that be to keep their hands off of podcasts and social media so that we can continue the free flow of ideas and so that we can share this kind of power and knowledge, wealth and influence between one another. That's what social media and podcasting give us the opportunity to do. You are able now to begin to build your own better answers to the problems that your fellow human beings are having out there. You can solve their problems better than any of these big box institutions can. It's just that the big box, offers a level of convenience that we've become a little bit accustomed to, right, as a human race. But you can compete on that level and then also offer a superior product and stand out above the rest that way. Here's the craziest thing to realize for all of us. there's room for all of us at this table. It's not like one entrepreneur comes out with one product and he dominates the market. That happens sometimes, but you know how it usually happens? By selling out to some corporate interest that comes and buys you out and makes you rich and actually removes your quality solution from the masses around you. I'm going to use an example right now. Siete chips. Have you guys heard of these? Siete makes gluten-free tortillas. They make tortilla chips. They make a few different kinds of like Tex-Mex and Mexican culinary sort of items that you might see around the store. They're organic. They're of the highest quality. They use nixtamalization in some of their new tortilla chips they've made, and they are unrivaled in terms of quality. Well, Siete just got acquired by PepsiCo. Now, while that's a great bit of news for Siete and its founders, it's not excellent news for you and me. And if you're familiar with the way this process works, you might already know why. This is where the term selling out comes from. A product that was previously of the highest quality and that gave us such a good feeling of connection to a brand that we could look at a family or an individual and see the legacy and know the brand story. Suddenly, all of that is swallowed up in giant corporate interest. Money buys it out, and then what happens over time? The quality of that product almost exclusively, almost 100% of the time begins to slip. And why is that? Because profit starts to take value over the people who are buying that product and over their experience. And corners are cut, and we're trying to get a lower cost on this item that everyone's used to buying, and it ends up becoming a lower quality product as a result. Now, I'm not trying to issue some sort of prophecy over Siete chips. I've been a big fan for a long time, and hopefully the quality stays there, and this selling to PepsiCo doesn't affect the quality of the end product. But we've seen this happen again and again. We've seen case studies, and we know how this can typically go. So you have a chance. The point is, in you beautiful, creative person that you are, you have a chance to show up for this market, whatever it is you offer, whatever it is that you're offering right now. There's room for all of us at the table. The thing that's hard to remember is we don't have to get a stranglehold on an entire industry to be successful. We can actually find niches, we can find smaller local groups and become popular within those groups and become successful for ourselves as well as for our community. The end goal isn't just to sell out, and no hate to anybody that decides to sell their company or their product and to make bukus of money as a result. I get that. A lot of people feel that's the only qualifiable end goal. That's where they're all trying to go. But I'm just saying, if you can look at all of that as a big set of processes and then realize there are nearly 8 billion people on this planet, that means that there are so many people who are experiencing the problem that you are trying to solve. It also means that you can find a way to meet their need uniquely and to be supported and valued in that effort. So, as we're building these social media followings, keep these things in mind, right? Stay consistent. Make sure that you stay on topic of the problem that people are having. And this is the last point that I'll make. Make sure that you are paying attention to the way that you are presenting your ideas. If you're not in the practice yet, make sure that you're reading. Make sure that you're reading content from authors that stretches your brain. Make sure that you're reading and watching the way that sentences are formed by brilliant minds that have come before us. Make sure that you're listening to podcasts and listening to the way that people articulate ideas. Make sure that you're continuing to expand your own vernacular. And that happens a lot through reading and through listening to podcasts, like I said. But make sure also that you are paying attention to the way that you express yourself through your voice, through your hand motions, through your facial expressions and body language. Get on camera and rehearse. Before you actually launch anything, Get on camera and rehearse. Try to get a list of ideas in front of you to run over them, to give yourself an overview of the kind of content that you want to cover, the sort of topics and the ground that you want to make sure that you cover in your podcast episode, and then practice on just expositing that information and coming at it from the angles that naturally occur to you. The beautiful thing about human expression is two people can talk about any one idea, and those approaches from those two people are going to be entirely different, but both of them can give something equally valuable to the conversation. So as you're working through your presentation, think about the way that you're expressing yourself. Think about your personal brand. That's something a lot of people miss out on. What are the effects that you use? You see this beanie on my head if you're looking at video. I've become a bit of a personal brand in that I wear blue blockers that all kind of match. Here's the secret for you. They're just sheepies that I found on Amazon, but I like the way they look on my face. I wear these beanies. I wear hats. All of that's because I'm bald. I started going aggressively bald when I was like in my mid-20s, and that's no joke. But it's become a part of the way that I look on camera, and I'm confident because of my time on stage in my presentation. So do whatever you can to stretch yourself and make sure that you are building these chops in terms of how you present and in terms of the way that it sounds on a microphone. If it's just going to be audio, right? If we're just going to be talking about a podcast that someone's listening to, or if you're going to be in front of a camera trying to build that social media following, it's super important that you are creating some sort of engaging aesthetic in terms of the visuals that accompany you when you're on camera, and that you're topically staying engaging. One other tip before I let you go is make sure that within the first 5 to 10 seconds of your videos on social media that you are providing a hook. When we say hook, we're just talking about the person that you're trying to speak to and the topic you're trying to cover. Don't give them the punchline at the beginning. Give them what you're about to say in an intriguing way. And it doesn't necessarily have to be clickbait. I've seen a lot of very successful influencers who start with the end result and then go back in time to show them how they got to the end result, right? A lot of times this happens with like cooking channels where they'll show you some amazing like plate full of some crazy fried food, and then the very next scene after like a second is the raw ingredients on the counter. So you're drawn in right away to be like, whoa, I want to get to that end result. How do I get there from here? That's a really brilliant way to engage a user so that they see something right off the bat that hooks them into wanting to watch the rest of your content. So if you're making social media content and you're trying to make sure that you get viewership, one thing you have to have right off the bat is a hook. Then you want to have definitely like a note on how they can continue to connect with you. And then you want to get into the meat of your topic with a call to action at the end. All right, everybody, that's all I've got for today in terms of growing a social media following. Thank you guys for following the Pick Branding Podcast and for listening to episode 1 of what's sure to be a limitless number of episodes. I want you to know sincerely from my heart that I want you to have success in your business endeavors. I want you to reach your goals and to see your dreams come true. I have seen plenty come true in my life, and I know many more are to come. And all I want is for people who are going through the same kind of difficulties and hardships that I was before I finally got through that barrier and got to where I am now, to experience the same level of freedom and to experience the same joy that comes with finally believing in ourselves and finally knowing that we're worth this pursuit, showing up every day and making sure we're consistent in bringing this kind of value to the world and in having value returned to us for doing so. So that's it for episode 1 of the Pick Branding Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. You can visit us at pickbranding.com if you're interested in a 90-day brand camp that's going to get you on track to make sure that you can get your brand off the ground. It includes everything from the kind of social media tips that I gave you today to understanding self and freeing yourself from limiting beliefs, to getting in the right mindset to running a business for yourself, all the way to beginning to formulate the identity of a brand based on your own identity identity, to make it marketable, and then to real deliverables at the end that gets you a brand book, a style guide, a marketing plan, and web design for your launch. This is a program that's absolutely unprecedented. I don't think there's anything like it anywhere else in the industry, and I'm offering it at a fire sale for the fall of 2024. So if you're interested in getting into it, visit us at pickbranding.com, and in the top nav, you'll see under services a section for our brand camp. It's called Pick Me. All right, thanks guys for listening. We'll see you on the next episode. Onward and upward.